Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. I'm Annette Young. Both Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton and Republican Donald Trump are now preparing for the very final stages of what has become a truly ugly American presidential campaign. But amid that ugliness, one positive thing has emerged, and that is for the first time gender equality is becoming an issue with the voters. Melanne Verveer was Hillary Clinton's chief of staff during her time as First Lady. She also was the first US ambassador at large for global women's issues, nominated by President Barack Obama himself. And she joins me now from Washington, DC. Ambassador, thank you so much for giving us some of your time. I want to start by asking you, in such an ugly, tawdry campaign, Hillary Clinton has had a very tough time in getting her message across. For a woman who's committed a very large chunk of her life fighting for women's rights, polls still show that she has a trust issue, particularly among women. Why do you think that's the case?
Well, first of all, Annette, it's great to be with you. And this is quite a challenging campaign. It appears never easy for women to really move into the political space, which we know from all of the data that exists on women's political empowerment. I think one of the charges leveled against Secretary Clinton has been her lack of trustworthiness, and much of it, I believe, stems not from the reality, but from the fact that she has been pummeled over many years with charges that have never been proven. And there have been those who have sought to undermine her credibility. And yet, if one looks at unbiased studies about her trustworthiness, a recent study that was done by an investigative reporter who, in her own time, looked at some of the questions that were raised about Secretary Clinton, said that she is fundamentally trustworthy. She is not someone who is representative of the charges leveled against her. And similarly, other reports demonstrate that among the fact-checking that's been going on in this campaign, the fact-checking about the utterances that she has made are far more accurate than those of her opponent by large scale.
But isn't it a problem that Hillary Clinton is seen to be very much a member of the very political establishment that Donald Trump is himself targeting?
Well, that's a very interesting point. And I think, in fact, he is running in some ways against an establishment, ironic as that might be. But the reality is that the campaign in the United States is based in significant ways on the rightful upset on the part of many people, particularly those in blue-collar jobs who once had good-paying jobs and no longer feel that they can take their place in the way that they need to. And he is playing on these grievances by appealing to blame of others, whether they're immigrants, whether they're Muslims, whether they're Mexicans, whether they're women, whatever, but shifting the blame, and in that way really trying to take advantage of many people who have very legitimate concerns about income inequality in the United States.
But as I said at the beginning, one silver lining in all of this is the fact that people are now talking openly about gender issues, more than ever after the release of that infamous tape.
Well, that's absolutely true. And if one were to look for a silver lining, I think it is the fact not just that there's a conversation going on about the legitimacy of these issues, but the tape, for example, was very much an example of assault, sexual assault, justifying it, bragging about it, and the recoiling across America, across our political spectrum, the visceral moving away from what was said on that tape in terms of there is no way that it can be justified, I think is raising people's consciousness about something that is a global scourge, violence against women, gender-based violence. There is no place for this in our societies. And the fact that it is getting the kind of reaction that is getting. I think in a way, call it a silver lining, call it an education, but one can only hope that it will mean that once and for all we will make progress for the fact that there is no place in society for this kind of behavior and the kind of sexual assault that it exemplifies.
I mean, surely for the Clinton campaign, that's something that needs to be translated into votes. I mean, the big issue, obviously, on the day itself is voter turnout. I've just mentioned earlier there's a trust issue. The other is getting people, particularly women, to turn out to vote. What do you think still needs to be done in order to get that to happen?
Well, there is a real effort. I think this campaign in these remaining weeks will and very much come down to turnout, to ensuring that those who support her and the women who support her do indeed get to the polls and register their vote. What we have seen in the last 24, 48 hours after the revelation of these tapes and the behavior of Mr. Trump during the last debate, where he sort of stalked over her and growled and didn't even acknowledge her by names at times, but referred to she or you, and of course, raised the specter of her husband as opposed to the fact that he was running against her, and sort of the diversionary tactics. What's come out of that in the last couple of days is the fact that larger numbers of women are registering their support for her. Because I think what happens in many ways is women do understand what this means in terms of the demeaning character of it, the condensation, the lowering their status, not paying attention and respecting them. And I think it's a visceral reaction, not just to the fact that Mrs. Clinton is eminently qualified, but the fact that women can see themselves in these positions.
I have to ask you, though, the what-if question. What if Donald Trump wins? What is that going to mean for women's rights in America?
Well, I can't even fathom that prospect, but one can see from his campaign, not just in terms of his own behavior, in terms of the misogyny, in terms of the putting down of women, but the fact that he really doesn't have a platform to elevate women's rights, to support women's rights, to the extent that he has articulated any position on the spectrum of issues. It's been one that his daughter has injected in terms of the need for childcare, which certainly is a very legitimate issue, and one that we have to deal with in our society, but his proposal falls far short of anything that Secretary Clinton has put out. So it's hard to imagine what it represents. One can only hope that the checks and balances system in our country, should he eventuate as the successful candidate, that those checks and balances will put a check on what might be his disposition in terms of moving forward in a way that puts women's rights backwards.
And if Hillary Clinton wins, how does she rebound after such a devastating campaign? I mean, how do you restore confidence in American democracy after what we've just witnessed?
Well, I think we have to heal the wounds. Clearly, we have had the injection of a lot of divisiveness in this campaign, pitting one group in society against another. We've got to come together. Hopefully, we will. Mrs. Clinton has demonstrated over the years, particularly when she was in the Senate, crossing the aisle, moving to her colleagues in the other party, working together in a way that's very collegial. She has received strong support from Republicans who have come out in favor of her, from experts in the various fields who are either independent or of the other party in many cases. I think she will reach out very significantly to try to heal the divisions and the wounds and the gaps that have been exposed in our society.
Finally, haven't we sort of lost sight of the fact that this is indeed the first woman running for the American presidency? So let me just ask you this. What difference will it make to America to have a woman in the White House?
Well, I think, first of all, once and for all, we will shatter that glass ceiling that has been a barrier for over 200 and some years. We're about to mark in the next few years the 100th anniversary of women getting the right to vote in America. Every place I go, and I know this has certainly been true of Hillary Clinton over the years, she's been asked, will America ever have a female president? I think just as it was important to break the barrier of an African-American, having an African-American president, given our history, this will be a very important barrier to break, because the symbolism of demonstrating that there is no impediment to people who comprise half of our population, women, to aspiring to the highest office, I think is a very important symbol for us, for our values, for what we represent, and for us in the world. I think, secondly, it means that many of the issues that we are concerned about, issues having to do with equal pay for equal work, having paid parental leave, which we don't have in the United States, addressing childcare issues. These are issues that truly affect women, but they affect all of our society. When women make progress, everyone makes progress, and I think that Secretary Clinton will move these issues more to the top of the agenda than where they've often been in the past, on the margins of the kinds of issues that are deemed important. So I think we will, both symbolically in a significant way that has impact, as well as tangibly in terms of policies, in terms of programs, really make a difference for all of the American people, men and women.
Melanne Verveer, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much. And that's it for this edition of the France 24 interview. Do stay with us for more news and headlines, which are coming up very shortly.